Welcome to the Sharpe Way. Yes, it is Tuesday, which means it is last weekend today. Absolutely another awesome day. But something you guys may not realize, last weekend, we got some pretty good press. Yes, indeed. The Congressman Justin Amash was in the press. I'll be talking about that interview because I do cover last weekend today. And of course, if you want to have other people talk about that too, please do me a favor, like, comment, share. It does matter. The only way we grow our media is if we grow our media. So please, let's go out of our way. Like, comment, share, and obviously, please like my page, The Sharpe Way. Go there, like The Sharpe Way Facebook page. Click on that thing. It matters. Subscribe to the YouTube page. This stuff matters. It keeps those algorithms going the way I want them to go. And of course, click on Twitter and like The Sharpe Way. It does matter. It makes it all worthwhile. And if you're in a good position financially, head over to patreon.com/sharpeway. Throw me a couple bucks. It matters. If you're not in a good financial position, I get it. A lot of us aren't. No worries. Like, comment, share is free. Absolutely. So I want to say thank you for coming today. Awesome. Hi, how are you, sir, Kevin? Glad you are on board. I want to talk today about what happened this weekend. This weekend, Congressman Amash was on CNN. He was on, State of the Union, if I'm not mistaken, with, I think it's Jeff Tapper, if I'm not mistaken. He was on. And when he was on, he was asked several questions. Now, some of you may not realize it. Some of you may realize this. Since Gary Johnson, no one has run a larger campaign as a big L than I did when I ran my governor campaign. I also ran, it was literally a 4 or 5 person race. It wasn't just me against a Democrat or me against a Republican. So I had to fight with the media like everyone else does, right? I had to deal with that as a big L libertarian. And there's a lot of landmines that pop up when the mainstream media interviews you. Left or right, depending upon which side it is, they will hit you with similar questions constantly. And if you watched my campaign in 2018, I had to deal with these questions. I dealt with them often, and I dealt with them always cold, live, with no notes. Why? So I could get better at this. So I could recognize what they're doing and why they're doing it and be able to respond and act accordingly. One of the problems people have when they run third-party campaigns or non-major party campaigns is they don't know how to answer questions effectively. And they're either on the right media, in which case, if they're Republican or right-leaning, it's friendly media, or they're on the left, right, then that's enemy media, or the reverse, right? So they know kind of whether it's going to be a positive, warm audience, or whether it's going to be a negative audience. And the audience knows too. So it's an easy watching to the, my guy is going to do well on my type of media, or my guy is going to beat the other guy up on the evil media. But when you're not Republican or Democrat, that changes. It's a different way of answering the question, a different way of dealing with the media, and we have to learn how to do that. And many of us, sadly, are not so good. Instead, what we start doing is we start making it to where we think we just need to answer the question right. This actually happens, believe it or not, because we begin to believe that running for office, we begin to believe wrongly, it's a job interview. So it's about credentials. It isn't a job interview. And it's not about credentials. It is a sales process. That's what running for office is. It's not a job interview. If the most qualified people got this job, we wouldn't have had our last couple of presidents. So you can be sure that it's not a job interview. It is a sales process wrapped up in a popularity contest. That's what it actually is. So being exciting, interesting, understanding what the media wants is critical. And also something else, not being mad at the media. The media's job is not to inform us, is not to give us both sides. That's not their job. Their job is to be seen. So if we are interesting and exciting and we know how to deal with this, we can be seen. And that's the goal. If we're seen, they will keep talking about this all the time. And yes, Shelly, it is imploding, and we do have a shot. And that's why I'm talking about this. You have almost read my mind. I want to bring up some pieces. There are actually 5 questions that Amash got asked. 2 kind of like defend yourself questions. 2, you have no chance, right? Questions. And 1 combined, we should just vote for the Democrat, right? Those are the 5 questions he was asked. Not in those words, but that's what he was asked. I'm unsure if people watching actually got that, right? I got that because I've been there. So people are saying, Larry, why do you want to run for the VP? Because I need to be in people's ears. I need to be in the president's ear, in our candidate's ear, telling them stuff like this. Let me show you a piece of it if I can. And it should, I hope, help. Hold on. So you'll see what I'm talking about.
Thanks so much. I want to get to your presidential bid in a sec, but first I want to ask you about these protests. That we've seen in Michigan, hundreds of people descending on the Capitol.
Look at that.
Thursday. Some of them armed, which we should note is legal in Michigan.
Some armed, legal in crazy Michigan.
The governor's stay-at-home order. President Trump tweeted a message to your governor saying she should make a deal with the protesters.
Yep.
He's also said, liberate Michigan.
Liberate Michigan. So what question is that? What that question actually is, so you like the bad guys, right? So defend yourself because this is your state and you're pro-gun, right? Defend yourself. That's really what this question was. When you get that kind of question, you've got to, instead of answering the question, you've got to immediately say things like, look, what's this guy's name? Tapper, right? Tapper is his name. Jeff Tapper, right? What's his name? I forgot his name. Anyway, whatever this guy's name is, right? You got to say, Tapper, look, you have to understand what these people are thinking. What would cause people to go do this? This is a bigger problem. That's how you answer that question, by saying you understand, by connecting with them, saying what would cause people to do this, right? Of course. And of course, you distance yourself from Nazi symbols, distance yourself from anything like, of course, that's a common thing, of course. But if you just answer the question, people go, oh. So there's a tactic that we have to use that is actually more effective. All right, let me go to the second question, which is the second question actually is a little bit different. The second question is, if I can grab that one here, the second question is totally defend yourself.
We should work together with the governor.
Let's talk about the race. Former Congressman, Republican presidential candidate Joe Walsh wrote in a Washington Post.
Here's the attack.
Amash can't win, but he can siphon enough votes from the Democratic nominee, Joe
See
Biden,
that?
to hand the election to Trump. If Amash gets the Libertarian nomination and stays until the end, he could wind up going in the books as the guy.
So you're just a spoiler, right?
1 year,
defend yourself.
To him 11 months later, unquote.
That's the question.
Your response to Congressman Walsh and to those in general who think that you will
look
probably
at
play
Jake
a
Tapper's
spoiler
face,
role, especially in your home state of Michigan.
He literally sets the question up. Here's some guy who says you're a spoiler, right? Here's some guy who says you're a spoiler, right? And he's one of yours, guy. Look at Jake's face. Right? You're no chance, right? He's not smiling talking to Amash. He's not being nice talking to Amash. He's literally like, right? This is a waste of time, isn't it? That's what he's doing. That's the emotion he's trying to send to the audience. And boy, is it working, right? That's what he's doing. And then he says, here's your guy, Joe Walsh. This guy says you're a spoiler, right? So obviously you're just a spoiler, aren't you? What do you have to say to him and others? Note the and others. So everybody's saying you're a spoiler, right? This is another defend yourself. And every time that someone throws you a defend yourself question, the first one was defend yourself. The second one was defend yourself. Whenever someone throws you defend yourself question, you've got to say things like, don't you get why people are saying this? Don't you understand? It is a connection time right here. Connection time. I don't want to discredit anybody. I don't want to do any of that stuff, right? I don't have to. I can if I want to. But if I discredit them, then I have to ask the audience. So I could say something like, if I want to go negative, it's up to the individual if they want to. If the individual wants to go negative, they could easily say something like, So the guy who tried to primary Trump, that guy, and lost, that's the guy you want to listen to election advice from. That guy. Look, all I'm saying, Jake, with your face, all I'm saying, Jake, is, look, there's a reason why I'm here. There's a reason why you're talking to me, because there's obviously a hole. There is a reason why you're talking. You're concerned, and so is he. I get it, because I might actually make some impact here. There's enough people who are unhappy that I might make some actual impact here. That's the idea. That's the stuff. Obviously, your own words, but that's the stuff. That's how you try to deal with that kind of question. You again, answering the question validates the BS question, which is just a defend yourself question. My point is, I don't have to defend myself. There's no requirement to defend myself. Your attack is invalid. There's no requirement for me to defend myself. All right. If I can grab a couple more of these, if that's at all possible. I want to move a little bit further down the road. There's a couple other questions, a couple of the ones I want to grab real fast. All right.
Because I want to win the election, and we need to win this election for the American people.
Next question. Here we go.
You say that the people are dissatisfied with both parties.
You say people are dissatisfied.
Take a dive into some numbers.
He took a dive into numbers.
10% of voters have an unfavorable view of both President Trump.
He says only 10% of voters in the last poll they did have an unfavorable feeling about both Trump and Biden. That's what Jake Tapper says right now.
And former Vice President Joe Biden in a poll that CNN did in March. It doesn't sound like there are a vast array of voters dissatisfied with both presidential
So there's
choices.
not many people there.
When you
Now,
get a lot of different.
The first thing is, again, it's the premise of the question. I'm not going to answer that question. He says literally only 10%. My thing would be, Jake, you did a deep dive. Did you go back just 4 years to 2016 when 90 million people didn't vote? Did you go back that far? I'm not sure your dive was really that deep, Jake, because if it was that deep, you would have realized 90 million people didn't vote last time. That's some people who I would say are unhappy with the situation. I would say that. So I don't know where you're going with this, and then I would keep going, right? The entire question is made to say, you have no chance, right? That's basically what it is. You have no chance, right? That's it. And our answer is, well, no, I've got 90 million people who didn't vote off the bat. I'm not sure how valid your deep dive is. Now, if I say you didn't even go back to check 2016, by default, I'm kind of breaking your poll data, aren't I? But I'm going to be nice. I'm going to be polite and nice and sweet. I'm going to ask questions. I'm going to try to be cute the way I just was there, maybe cuter. But I would try to do that so that people want me to come back, so that people see it, so that this goes viral, so that other people are showing it everywhere, particularly you guys, I hope, are showing this everywhere, and then people notice it, and we take advantage of the press. This is what I want us to achieve. But I want us to understand this race is not a typical left-right race for us at all. This is a third-party, big L race, and the media will treat us differently. It absolutely will. It does all the time. I know. I felt it in 2018. I dealt with these issues. And if any of you want to watch some of my press from my Larry Sharpe Libertarian page, feel free. There's tons of it. And this is how I answer the questions. So I'm going to go into the next question if I could. And the next question is also another one. It's kind of, you've got no chance. The issue is they want to discredit you. That's the issue. They want to discredit. And they will go out of their way to try to make it sound like you have absolutely no chance.
No third-party candidate in the modern two-party system has ever.
Nobody says no third-party candidate in the modern two-party system. So he qualifies his question on purpose. And I'll tell you why in a second.
Won the presidency. That includes an incredibly popular former president, Teddy Roosevelt.
Includes Teddy Roosevelt.
What makes you different?
What are you different?
I'm going to go out.
So he literally says, you got to be better than Teddy Roosevelt. You got to be better than Teddy Roosevelt. That's what he says. So show me why you're better than Teddy Roosevelt. Yet again, this is, you have no chance. Defend yourself. Would any other, if he were a Democrat or Republican, would he get any of these questions? No. These are questions that only go to libertarians and sometimes Greens, but usually libertarians. That's it. But he says modern. Why? Lincoln. That's the reason. Third party. Frickin' Lincoln. Yeah. And when did Lincoln actually win? Well, when the country was divided, about to go into a damn civil war. Yeah. The more divided the country is, the more chance for a third party to win. But he says modern. If I'm answering that question, I'm going to say, why'd you say modern? Why wouldn't you say instead ever and explain when did a third party actually ever win? When was there real change? When the country was divided, like in our revolution and like during our Civil War. And when the country's divided, they beg for someone to bring them together. And I would ask you, Jake Tapper, who's going to bring our party together? Trump? He can do that? Biden? Is he going to do that? No. Only a libertarian can bring this country together. That's it. This is how you deal with that. This is how you deal with that issue, right? You can make that kind of happen. You can, if you understand that the questions are specifically for us. If he was a Democrat or Republican, he'd have got policy questions or what do you think about COVID or whatever. He would have only gotten policy issues or what do you think about the other guy? That's all he would have gotten. But he doesn't. Because now, my friend, Mr. Amash, you're a libertarian. Game has changed. I know that game very well. So this is what I want you to realize. This is how it goes every single time. And it won't change. It's not going to change. This is how every interview is going to go. Constantly, this way. It's unfriendly, discrediting, making sure that, why bother? You have no chance. What are you doing? Defend yourself. This is how it works, the entire piece. All right, let me go a little bit further if I could. I want to grab
payments,
one more.
Should be made to individual suggested
a major party in
All
this
right.
country.
You suggested that universal payments should be made
Now he brings up
to
UBI.
individual Americans as part of the coronavirus response.
Yeah.
That made me wonder, as president, is your mind open
It made
to
him wonder.
universal basic income as Andrew Yang proposed when he was running for president on the Democratic side of the field?
Now, this is a two-pronged question, right? This question does two things. One, it says, hey, aren't you really like a Democrat? Can't you just vote Democrat? Which is what the entire interview is basically, can't we just vote Democrat instead of you? That's the entire interview, right? And he wraps it up perfectly with the last question, right? Two questions that are either kind of like defend yourself, and then two questions which are basically, you got no chance, right? And then you wrap it up with, can't we just vote Democrat instead? Jake, well done. Well done. I'm giving you props. You're trying to push the agenda. Brother, well done. That's perfect. 5 questions right in a row. Wrap it up with kind of just vote Democrat anyway, right? That's the entire goal, right? That's the concept. But there's a second piece there. He's trying very hard to find just one policy issue linked to a Democrat, but one policy issue that he's hoping people can attack him on. That's the goal. Bring up the one controversial piece that it comes up that now people can attack you on. That's what this was last weekend. If anyone's curious on what this actually was, I hope I broke it down for you well enough. That was my goal, was to show you that that's kind of how it actually works. That was the reality of this weekend. The interview was made 5 questions, 2 basically saying defend yourself, 2 saying you got no chance, right? And 1 saying, should we just vote Democrat anyway? There's a policy that's controversial. We'll get you on that later. That's why he actually says we'll bring you on later, during the presidential race. Well, so we can beat you up. That's the entire goal. So I do think that I'm glad we got it. Don't get me wrong. I want to be clear. If I wasn't clear, I am very happy that we got that interview. Amash, if your people or you are watching, thank you so much for it. Amazing. I'm glad we got it. Well done. We have to realize whoever our nominee is, whether it's Amash or Gray or whoever, I hope Gray, whoever it is, right? Whoever our nominee is, we've got to understand that when the press comes when we get it, and we will get more of it, this is not left or right press. It just isn't. It isn't left or right press. This is press that is made to discredit, made to make you defend yourself, made to make you look bad or incompetent, not part of the big boys, right? That's what this press is going to be about always. You should be at the kids' table. That's what it's always about. So if we understand that, we can, I hope at least, be better at being more exciting and interesting. Because here, if we're going to get into on the debate stage, and I hope we get in the debate stage, the only way we're going to do it is if we get a couple of things like this, maybe a CNN town hall or something like that, and we knock it out of the park. If we knock it out of the park, if it's exciting and interesting, and we knock it out of the park, then without question, that's how we're going to get in the debate stage. If we don't do that, we're not getting on. So this is why I'm saying this, so that when this keeps happening, we can handle it. Anyways, let me grab a couple of these. So, yes, note, Ben, no follow-up at all, because there wasn't meant to be any. Thank you. There was no, what do you mean? How about that? What about none of that? That wasn't the goal. It was 5 questions set up perfectly, timed right, to wrap it up with. So we should just vote Democrat, right? That was it didn't matter what he said. Irrelevant. You're totally correct. It's exactly right. No Jesse Ventura, Helen. No Jesse Ventura. Yes. So yes. Well, yes, we will get some time to speak with the MSM. Hopefully I will be the VP nod. I hope I get the VP nod. We'll get the mainstream media. And yes, I'm happy to speak with them. 100%. Yes, Gerard. It has been a while. Lincoln, a while ago, which is why he said modern, so that he couldn't say Lincoln, which is why I would have broken that entire concept. He made sure that he couldn't say Lincoln by using the phrase modern. Absolutely. So also, are they polling their own CNN audience? Rebecca, maybe. I don't know. Which is why, again, you have to break the idea of, is what they're saying valid or not, right? The premise of the question sometimes has to be broken. So thank you, David. I appreciate your support. I hope more people will follow that. So, all right. Let's see here. Not by huge margins. From watching nobody try to pretend to know what the people want. Trump wins because he knows the complaints of the people. It's true. Very often, Trump will jump on the side of the people. I mean, he's very good at that. People are saying, people are thinking, people are saying, people are thinking. Very, very common. So, yeah. Larry Sharpe, why won't the media look to Amash in a positive light, considering the option of Biden, who was clearly unfit to serve 4 years, and Trump, who they hate? Is it because they are hoping the Dem VP choice will be the real candidate? This is a great question. I don't know how, if the press believes that that our candidate, Gray, Amash, whoever that person is, the odds are it's one of those two. That's the odds. But who knows? That's the odds. If it's one of those two, the odds are, if they think that there's going to be some impact, then they'll cover and they'll try to paint the person in the way that's best for their side, right? If MSNBC believes that our candidate is going to hurt Trump, they're going to put our candidate on every week, right? Because they want to hurt Trump. If they think it's going to hurt Biden, Fox will put our guy on every week, right? But if they think they may make too much impact and actually be able to maybe have a chance at victory, that's the hardest one. Because to break that two-party system, that obvious black and white, evil versus good system, that doesn't go well for them. That's not good storytelling. And remember, they are about storytelling. The news, if you ever watched, isn't actually news. The news is what people think about the news, right? The news isn't, here's what happened. The news is, what do you think about what happened? That's what the news is. So you can't tell good stories if you break that left-right paradigm. So you've got to put our candidate on one side or the other. Otherwise, it doesn't fit. So I think it's a problem. I think it is an issue. I'm not sure where they're going to go. So, excuse me. Perot may have done better with a better VP choice. Yeah, I think, was it Stack? I've forgotten the guy. Stackhouse? No, Stack something. I've actually forgotten the guy's name. He was a naval officer. Stackpole? Stockton. I think Stockton, right? Was that guy's name? Stockton. I've actually forgotten his VP. I think it was Stockton, right? He was a naval officer. As he stumbled off of the debate stage saying, "Why am I here?" Yeah, probably not Perot's best decision. Absolutely. Let's see. Heaven forbid something might actually threaten him. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. 100%. And yes, I've done a lot of interviews and you've seen them. Absolutely. Has Judge Gray interviews? He has. Yes. But to be forward, I'm just being very forward, as I said before. No one has done, and I don't mean this to be a jerk. I don't. Thank you. Admiral Stockton. Thank you, John. I knew it was Stock or Stack something. I knew he was a naval officer. Thank you, John. I'm saying this because I want you guys to understand this. Nobody who is currently active has done more interviews as a big L libertarian than me. Nobody. In an actual race with multiple people running, with 4 or 5 people running, which is what this is going to be. No one's done as many as I have. So one of the reasons why I'm running for VP is so I can support our candidate and be in their ear and say, this is going to happen. This is how it works. This is what you need to be concerned about. Here's how we do this. Let's work on this. Making them better and better and better. Again, has Gray done as many? I don't think so, but he's done it absolutely. And here's the best part. Judge Gray wants me in his ear, telling him, how do we get better? What's the next step? This is a good thing. You should be happy about this. He wants me in his ear. So I hope whoever our nominee is would like me in his ear. I hope Judge Gray is that nominee because I know he wants me whispering in his ear. We're already there. So I'm very happy about that. I hope that was clear. But it is last weekend today. And it can't be last weekend today without Fareed Zakaria. You guys know I love watching Fareed. He's brilliant. Now, some people are going to be unhappy when I show this clip because this is Fareed talking about the COVID crisis and how we moved so fast and what we did. Now, as usual, Fareed, his data on the money, as it always is. Fareed Zakaria is brilliant. And his ideology comes out every single time. Let's see if I can do this right. And you will see, again, brilliant as always, ideology comes out.
For all those of us who have watched with mounting terror as President Trump offers the public a series of his half-baked ideas and
he attacks Trump, of course, as he always does.
And treat and cure COVID-19.
Beat up on Trump.
The solution seems obvious. Follow the science.
That's what everyone says.
Trump's detractors have taken
science.
up this mantra.
Follow the science. Listen to the experts.
Science, science, science.
We're going to follow the doctors and the scientists.
But we hear constantly.
But what does that mean?
What does that mean, Fareed? Tell me.
Dr. Anthony Fauci who initially downplayed the dangers of the coronavirus.
Fauci said we're good.
26th, he said,
didn't he?
It's a very, very low risk to the United States.
He did say
it isn't something the American public needs to worry about or be frightened about.
And safety.
A few days later, Health and Human Services Secretary Alex Azar said this.
He's
the
bringing up the right points.
Of infection for Americans remains low.
Yep, risk is low.
He was merely reflecting the views of the government's public health officials. At the same time, Trump advisor Peter Navarro, a non-scientist,
another guy
looking at the same data coming
everyone's
out of
looking
China,
at,
warned in a January 29th memo of the risk of the coronavirus evolving into a full-blown pandemic, imperiling the lives of millions of Americans.
So this guy's saying
urged aggressive action.
So one guy's saying aggressive, one guy's not.
The layman was right and the scientists were wrong.
Listen to what he just said. Fareed actually comes across and says, in this case, wow, scientists were wrong and the layman was right. Now, why do I bring this up? Not because I'm anti-science. I'm not. I think the scientists are usually right. I really do. And most of the time, almost every time, I am going to be on the scientist side. I'm agreeing. The piece that I'm talking about, and he's going to bring it up right now, is science isn't easy. Very often, people aren't sure. They don't know. As they begin to learn, they figure things out. Why in the world would we take such aggressive action when we're not sure yet? That's the only question I have. He actually brings this up.
Is too simplistic. The reality is that science does not yield one simple answer.
Absolutely.
Especially not with a new phenomenon like the coronavirus.
That's not true.
Dr. Fauci came to a reasonable conclusion given the initial evidence. As that evidence changed, he changed his mind.
Absolutely. However, as it changes, why were we so aggressive?
We tend to think of science as providing one definitive answer to a question, but that isn't really how it works. Science is above all a method of inquiry, the posing of questions and the rigorous testing of these hypotheses against data. With new and better data.
Now, hold on. I want to tell you what he's doing now. What he's doing is he's trying to say, well, it's about, science can be right and can be wrong. He's creating excuses now. He's creating excuses because the reality of it is, for the past 3 or 4 weeks, if you've been paying attention, I have obviously. You've watched Fareed go on other TV shows. He was on Bill Maher. He was on I forgot the show he was on. He has his own show. He has been backing off of this lockdown for weeks. If you go back 2 months ago, he was all about lockdown. He had people on saying, we got to lock it down. We got to lock it down. We got to lock it down. And over the last 3 or 4 weeks, he's been like, well, maybe we shouldn't have. And now he's bringing up these science pieces to say, well, maybe it's not true. Who knows? Maybe it's not true. He's been backing off for a while. And he's trying to make excuses because when people come back, and they will come back and say, but Fareed, you were yelling to shut it all down a month ago. Now he's like, well, it's science changes. And he's right. I don't want to be mad at him, but all he's doing now, there's no reason for him to take 2 minutes talking about what science is. Why is he doing that? He's defending himself because he knows his mind's changing. As many people's minds are changing, this hardcore, harsh response may not have been the right answer.
We should arrive at new and better conclusions.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there are certain fields of study, climate change, for instance, where scientists have researched the topic for
this doesn't count for climate. See, this doesn't count for climate change. Only for this.
Decades, collected mountains of data, published thousands of
Let me keep going.
Barely 4 months old, with little definitive research.
Let's keep going.
Section on a number of
all this
decide how soon and under what conditions to reopen schools. Other questions: which activities make infections more likely?
Yes.
Does weather affect the virus's spread?
If you guys remember me yapping about this 2 months ago, everything he's saying now. Why are young people not affected as harshly? Does weather affect it? Right? Does heat affect it? All these things. Why weren't we looking at all of these things as early as possible? And I said, well, Larry, we don't know them. You tell me they don't know them in South Korea now? They don't know them in Italy now? They don't know them in Spain now?
Keep in mind that we do not have accurate numbers for the virus's rates of infection or spread or death.
So why are we locking the country
As we go
down?
through the process of locking down and now opening up,
Yep.
Scientists around the world are gathering data at a furious pace. We should welcome this and use it to
There we
refine,
go.
even reverse views about the pandemic.
Reverse
We should
views.
welcome those who have
Like
heterodox
yours?
approaches.
Yes.
T.J. Rogers, the
I
founding
think like
CEO
yours,
of
my
Cypress
friend.
Semiconductors, ran an analysis of the available data that led him to conclude
Do
that the
lockdown
speed with
save
which cities
lives?
locked down had little appreciable effect on lowering the death rate.
Did you just hear what he said? Locking down cities had little effect on lowering the death rate. Wow.
From COVID-19.
I want to be clear. This is mainstream CNN, guys. Mainstream media. CNN Sunday. This isn't, I don't know, whatever left and right crazy stuff is, whatever you want to call it. This isn't some internet guy in his basement with a cat and the tinfoil hat. It's mainstream. He's saying no.
Now, it's a fairly crude model, but it's still worth looking at.
Yes, it
It
is.
suggests, for example, that high population density is 8 times more likely to correlate with a high death rate.
You
than
mean
a
like
late
New York
lockdown
City?
is. This might explain why densely populated cities like New York,
Oh!
with crowded public transportation
What a
networks,
coincidence that
have been
is.
hit so hard, and why a state like Florida, despite waiting longer to lock down,
Yep.
has had relatively few deaths. And while it always makes sense to be cautious and plan
Listen
for
to
the
this.
worst, there are real costs to the precautionary principle.
There are real costs to the precautionary principle. Guys, you can do both. There can be a balance. It's what I talked about literally for months. There can be a balance. I know so many people got mad at me and they put me in that left or right or black and white. Larry, if you want to open up, that means you hate people and you want my grandma to die. No, it doesn't mean that. It means I don't want you to destroy everything that millions of people have built up and destroy it based upon fear only. That's what I meant, and that's it. I was never saying that this wasn't going to kill people or it wasn't serious. Of course it is. That data is obvious. We can see that. But were the hit everything with a stick, was that required? Was that required? No, but government doesn't know any better. All government knows is hit it with a stick. That's it. Oh, it didn't work? 2 sticks. Doesn't work? Bigger stick. That's all government knows. This is our problem. And this all comes from a culture. This is a cultural issue of zero tolerance. Zero tolerance culture. No one can make a mistake. No one can have a problem because if they do evil, so therefore I must do every single thing to crush everybody always. And as a society, we just sat there and we took it. And this is the worst part of this entire thing. We just sat there and took it. And now people are saying, wow, maybe we shouldn't have done that. And when it comes out that we shouldn't have done that, who's going to say they're sorry? Nobody. What's going to be the repercussions for all the property and livelihood and lost? Nothing. There'll be no recourse. There'll be no lawsuits for the government. No, there'll be nothing. Yes, if force isn't working, you're not using enough. Absolutely. 100%. You're just not using enough. Again, mainstream media, guys.
By canceling non-emergency medical procedures
Listen to this.
in anticipation of COVID-19.
He says, canceling non-essential. The government decides what's essential, not you, not your doctor, not your family. The government decides who is essential. By canceling that,
Patients, hospitals denied care to many sick people.
Denied care.
Who got much worse as a
who
result.
got worse?
Even though it turned out many facilities had the capacity to care for both.
They had the capacity to care for both, but we wouldn't let hospital workers, doctors and nurses do the job they want to do, the job that they're literally heroes. We're clapping for them at 7 p.m. every single night here in New York City. I'm sure you have similar things in your city, your town. They're great. They're amazing. They're heroes. I'm agreeing. They're heroes. Clap for them. They are heroes. Absolutely. So don't let them do what they're supposed to do. Don't let them make decisions that they're trained to make. Don't let them take care of patients that they care about. Government knows better. Government knows better. Government decides what's essential and isn't. And we sat back and we took it. And now the mainstream is getting, you know what? Maybe we shouldn't have.
Balancing such costs and benefits is ultimately not just about health.
Yes.
If we lowered the...
Whoa. Did you hear what he just said? It's not just about health. Yet all you hear is, well, then everyone's going to die. He just said it's not. This is, again, mainstream, not just about health.
Speed limit everywhere to 35 miles an hour, we would surely save lives.
Yep.
Yet we try to strike a balance
But we
between
don't.
costs and benefits.
Yes.
Donald Trump's willful ignorance
All right.
makes us
we
all
can stop.
want...
The rest is just Trump bashing. Now, those of you who hate Trump, you can bash him. I'd be like, those you don't like, who like Trump, you don't want to hear him bash. I don't care about bashing Trump. That's irrelevant to me. What I'm concerned about is what he actually said. He literally said that we had to strike a balance. And I got to tell you, I love to hear that, but I'm also disappointed. And I'm disappointed not because he's saying it. I'm disappointed because it's 3 months too late. That is my biggest issue. It's 3 months too late. This is a problem. I really wish we had picked this up and figured this out earlier. But you're saying, Larry, how could we? Well, there was a way. And there's a country who's done it. And that country is Sweden. Sweden actually did this. Now, the best part about this is the actual piece here that he did right afterwards. He did a piece on Sweden and actually talked to a guy about Sweden. So let me show you this one. I think you'll love this piece too real fast.
And now to the very curious
case of Sweden.
The Nordic nation has not subscribed to most of the lockdown.
What he says, if you can't hear, I know it's kind of low, the Nordic nation has not subscribed to what everyone else has subscribed to. If you want to go out, you can.
That the rest of the Western world, indeed much of the world, has adhered to. If you're hungry, you can go to a restaurant.
Go to a restaurant.
Thirsty,
coffee shop.
You need a haircut.
Go get one.
Go to the next barber shop.
No worries.
As for kids, the
kids are in school.
Still in school. The result, the death rate in Sweden is higher than in neighboring countries.
Death rate's higher.
Not as high as
but not as high as those who've locked down. Death rate's higher, not as high as those who've locked down. They found a balance. Literally what he was talking about, the Swedes did. The Swedes found a balance. Is it perfect? No, it is not perfect at all. Without question, not perfect. I don't want to say it's perfect, but you have a choice. Lock down and destroy everything or find a balance. And they found a balance.
In Italy, for instance, parts of the scientific community in Sweden have...
Now, some people got upset, but what he does is he actually brings on a guy.
Pleasure to have you on.
He brings this guy on who's a scientist in Sweden. He's one of the top guys in Sweden. The most important piece he says here, and I can't tell you how important it is, listen to when he says, I'll repeat it for those you can't hear because it is a little bit low.
Let me ask you to begin. Thank you. Let me ask you to begin by explaining very simply, why did you decide
of almost against all the scientists in the other countries to not do the lockdown?
A lockdown in Sweden.
And this is what he says.
I think because we really, from very early on, thought we could achieve the same.
Because we thought early on, it's his words, that we could achieve the same thing.
Kind of effect using the normal Swedish system for public health and work a lot with voluntary measures, working a lot with giving a lot of responsibilities to it.
He literally says, using the public health system to install voluntary measures. This is Sweden. This is the country that almost every democratic socialist will tell you, we want to be like Sweden. They're all socialists, and they're socialists and be like Sweden. Okay, voluntary measures
to the individuals in our country.
To give responsibility to individuals. Please, if you can't hear it, just read that bottom part there. The guy's last name is Tegnell, and he says, we're giving individuals a lot of responsibility. The next time someone says we should be like Sweden, I agree. Just like this, we're giving individuals a lot of responsibility. We could achieve the same with voluntary measures. I know I'm preaching this, but I've been preaching this for literally months, saying it's not about people walking away and being crazy and hurting each other. It's about using the government as a centralized repository for information, giving out good information, telling people what the guidelines are, using your health department to provide government stamps for people who are following the right rules and regulations, the right guidelines, but not shutting them down, not telling them no, allowing them, the consumer, to go around and go, ooh, that guy's not safe, that guy's not safe, let's not do this, making that work voluntarily with individual responsibility. Yes, this is Sweden, and they're doing it now.
And does that mean you think that you can achieve a large part of
can you achieve all of that?
Flatten the curve.
Flatten the curve
by just putting out some guidelines.
Putting out
that you don't
guidelines.
have to shut schools.
Without
you don't
shutting
have to
things
shut
down.
Restaurants, etc. In other words, you get enough bang for the buck. As
He says enough bang for the buck.
Yeah, I think so. And
He says, yeah, I think so. Yeah. Yeah. Sweden says, yeah, I think we can get the right bang for our buck without having to shut everything down. If we just tell people what they should be doing and how they should be doing it. And then they'll adapt the protocols to save their lives. Now, to be forward, they had a problem here. This did not go perfectly. And one of the reasons why they have a higher rate is because of something very specific. I talked about that too. They did not. You'll see what happened.
6-7 weeks into the epidemic in Sweden, we have managed to do that. We have a very
In
flat
7
curve.
weeks.
Our health system is still working.
The health system's working.
But they have never been overburdened.
Never overburdened.
Actually, and at any given time, there's been at least 20% of the ICU beds.
20% of their ICU beds have been available as an average. I thought we were going to run out of beds here in America. Remember that? That didn't happen. That wasn't true. I thought we were going to run out of ICU. Didn't happen. Wasn't true. Sweden either. And Sweden didn't do a lockdown. They didn't either. They told their people what to do. They let them know this was serious. It is serious. But they trusted their people more. They gave them more responsibility. They used voluntary measures, and they had a better outcome.
Have been empty. Travel in Sweden has been cut down by at least 90%.
Voluntarily, travel in Sweden cut down by about 90%. Voluntarily. People just stopped going out as much. They stopped traveling. They're not going on the ships. You don't have to tell people that. I mean, force people. They just did it. Are you telling me Swedes are smarter than Americans? Swedes are better than Americans? No. Swedes are humans just like Americans are. If you would have given us this option, it would have worked.
A lot of people are staying home.
They're staying home.
Our yearly flu epidemic usually lasts for
yearly flu epidemic
suddenly stopped after 4 weeks.
Stopped after only 4 weeks.
So I think we get a lot of.
They got a lot of bang out of the buck. Their flu season even went down. Again, they have a very flat curve. Voluntarily, responsible to the individual. This is the libertarian answer. This is what we could have done. People say all the time, well, this proves libertarians don't work. Remember that one? There's no libertarians during a plague. There's no libertarians during a crisis. Remember that? Well, no. There's 15 million of them in Sweden. There's 15 million libertarians in Sweden.
The effect from the things we do.
Can you explain?
Here they explain.
Because you have
why it's higher.
Sweden, a death rate that is
they did make a mistake.
A bit higher than in your neighboring countries, though, as we pointed out, not compared to the worst countries in Europe. But why do you think
he explains why he did have some problems? He did screw something up, which we should learn from.
Accidental occurrence, or is it, is it a cost you had to pay?
I think it's definitely an unintended occurrence.
Yeah, it wasn't on purpose.
We counted on, not something we wanted. And there is two different, I think.
He expresses why two things are working that didn't work.
Our incidence in Sweden has been much higher than in our neighboring countries.
The first one's very sad.
About that because our
testing
capacity has been limited. And I think the number of people in Sweden that has been infected so far has been quite a lot greater than in our neighboring countries.
He's going to explain why in a second.
The answer. The other part is that we had an unfortunate number of introductions of the disease into our elderly homes in Sweden.
Yeah, elderly homes was a big deal for them. The facilities where they keep their elderly, they didn't do a good job of keeping that out. That was a problem, and a lot of the deaths came in that spot. For those of you who aren't aware of this, about 85 to 90% of all of the deaths are from people over 65. So if you're older, you have a much higher chance of being affected. Sweden screwed that up, but he admits it. He says that's the biggest reason, right? Some of it was people moving back and forth, right, from other areas, right? That was one, because as they were open, the other countries weren't, so people came to Sweden. So there was some of that, right? That was some reason why it was higher. The second thing is they had a lot, and they had a lot of testing, which was also good. But they didn't have nothing but testing. Testing wasn't their biggest piece. It wasn't their hugest piece, right? It wasn't the biggest piece. So people came in, and of course, because they did not do their best to keep this out of the homes for seniors, senior living homes. That was an error. We could have fixed that, guys. We could have fixed that problem. We could have done it. And yes, the government used fear control to impose its will. Absolutely. And yes, can Americans be responsible? Yes, we see it now. A lot of these things are happening right now. I wanted to show you that because 2 points. One, I'm happy I showed the Amash interview. I hope that was exciting for many libertarians to see that we're getting some press. I wanted you to understand that it is very different being a libertarian, candidate running versus being an R or a D. And I want to show you this because there was a libertarian solution. People said it wasn't. There was. There are no libertarians in a crisis. There are 15 million Swedes who would disagree. There absolutely are libertarians in this, and they can actually make things work. Did they make a mistake? They did. And I'm sure there are many people who lost their elderly parents who regret it. There are lots of people who lost elderly parents here who regret it. I don't want you to lose your elderly parents. I have an elderly mother-in-law. I have an elderly godfather. I don't want either of them to go. I don't. And both of them have pre-existing conditions. And guess what? I don't go see them. I mean, that's not true. I do. I drop stuff off. I mask up and I glove up and I drop stuff off. But I don't go physically go see them. Of course not. Of course not. I don't want them to die. So of course I don't do that. I still care about them. My wife's very good at going back and forth, talking and via text and email. She's good that way. I'm bad that way. But she's good. So, we can make this work, and we should have made this work, and we could have made this work, right? Instead of having Trump and Cuomo giving infection and death numbers, which most common people can't use for anything, they should have worked with Hollywood to show actual social scenarios and the best ways to prevent the infection spread. James, that is brilliant. Yes, you are right. Why weren't you their marketing guy? See? James, what were you thinking? You've missed your calling. That would have been much better. What do we do instead? Again, as I said earlier, the goal of the media is not to inform us. The goal of the media is not to do any of these things. The goal of the media is to be seen. And so death count, body count is exciting. People watch it, of course. But instead, they should have been doing what you said, James. They should have been showing people what really matters, showing people how that works, showing people what they should do, right? That would have been far better, far, far better. So yes, and Kristen agrees. Thank you. New York has lots of old age homes. Yeah, I think so. Sure. Yeah. So we should have watched it, right? We should have watched that. Absolutely. Right. The goal of the media is to be seen. Yes, that is the goal. That's it. Their goal is to be seen. Nothing else. It's not to help us or to hurt us. So I'm not mad at them. People get mad at the media. I'm not mad at them. I'm not mad at all. Just understand their goal and use them effectively. That's what I try to do. Use the media effectively. Understand their goal and use the media effectively. Right? Yes, thank you. Masks should be mandatory for public health as a balance too. Look, you don't have to. You don't have to mandate it. You could just say, wear masks. The majority of people will. Some won't. And those who won't, don't go around them because they're obviously being jerks. Don't be around them. It's fine. Don't be around them. I think Sweden shows it doesn't have to be mandatory. If people will do it, it's just human nature. Will some people be jerks? Yeah. And some people will be jerks even if it's against the law. How do we know that? You see it now. New York City right now, it's a $500 fine. And people still do it. Still do it. So if you're that kind of jerk, you're doing it anyway. So it wouldn't matter. All it does is now you feel righteous when you put the jerk in jail 6 months from now when we start opening the jails again. So yeah. Where's the official count on suicides during lockdown? To put next to the official count of coronavirus deaths. I know of 2 personally, people in their 20s. Yeah, the hardest part about this piece is how do you know when this is going to show its actual death rate? I don't know when. But if you're a millennial, and people often say, Larry, you talk about millennials a lot. I do. I feel for them. I feel for them because they came out into a field of work right after the last crash. most of them had to struggle with either no job or hard jobs or gig economy jobs or side hustles. Many of them did to try to become successful. Most of them have high debt. It's a crappy place to be in. And then some of them have actually begun to build themselves out of that. Through all of that, they now got something going, and the government goes, oh, no, just kidding. Boom, next one. Chops their feet out from underneath them again. If you're 30-something now, man, if you're 30 years old now, holy crap, is it bad for you? You came out in a crappy time of school in the crappy time, and now all of a sudden it hits you again. Just terrible. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed that piece. Someone's asking my take on the LNC. For those of you who are paying attention, this may be boring for some of you, but I'll talk to it because people are asking. When it comes to the LNC and the convention nominating process, I have always cared about one thing only. I've said it more than once. I'll say it again. Press, press, press. That's what I care about. If the LNC decides or the COC decides that we're going to do some type of electronic ballot, fine. I don't care. May 22nd, May 29th, June 6th. Yes, all fine, with one caveat and only one caveat. And that is when we eventually have our in-person convention, whenever that is, July, August, whatever it is, that we have some format to where people can come if they want to. Obviously, if those either can't afford it or can't make time or are afraid, there should be some way of those people, being involved in some way, right? Electronically or something. But we do want to allow people to be able to show up. And I want the convention to not only be business. I want there to be speakers. I want there to be our nominee, if predicted earlier. I want them to show up because then we get press at that convention. As long as there can be press at that eventual convention, I'm good. Whatever the LNC agrees with, I'm fine. I'm not concerned. All I care about is that we get press at one point. It may be better to do electronic and then a physical. We have some form of ceremony where we officially, say, look, here's our two nominees, whatever. I'd love something like that. Then we get press twice. During this COVID crisis, we are not going to be able to campaign as hard as we want to. And while this is amazing, I love this stuff. I love the Zoom calls and the StreamYards and I love all of those things. And the restreams, they're great. But it's not going to replace mainstream media. People who vote more than ever are watching CNN, Fox, MSNBC more than ever. They're home right now watching mainstream media, and they know it. Why do you think they're so happy about this? They are just killing it when it comes to ad revenue. They are killing it when it comes to ad revenue. Absolutely, they are. So we need to be on that. If we could be on twice, even better. So to answer your question, as long as somehow it equals press, I'm good. Whatever is appropriate, no worries, as long as it's good. As long as we get press, I'm good. All right. I think I've covered about everybody. Guys, I appreciate what you've done. I hope this was interesting. As always, like, comment, and share. Please go to my Facebook page, The Sharpe Way, now and like it. Go to my YouTube page now and subscribe. Go to my Twitter now and follow me. I need this. You need this. We need this to grow our media so that not only can we get mainstream media, but we also get non-traditional media. We also get social media. And of course, if you are someone who is in a good financial spot right now, I know many of you aren't, but if you are, head on over to patreon.com/SharpeWay. Throw me 5, 10, 20. If you're super wealthy, throw me $500. Whatever you got, throw it at me if you can. If you can't, no worries. Like, comment, share is free. So please go ahead and do that. Guys, I want to say thank you so much. I'll be talking to you tomorrow here on A Sharpe Way.